All right, we'll be doing a little YouTube stream. We'll start off in a few. We got a few minutes. We got till the top of the hour. Radio. Ooh.
It's gonna be interesting to see what direction we go. We're gonna find out pretty soon, quarterback wise.
Yep.
To bring him
Quarterback is a need.
in. It's just the amount of outreach, like the committee.
Mm-hmm.
They have someone everywhere. So each week, a different person has like some kind of, charity golf tournament.
Yeah.
Now, you're on that list. So, do you want to go to Florida this week and play in this person's tournament? Do you want to go to Los Angeles? Oh my goodness, So just the community is like really, really big, which is cool. Which you just have no idea, what you're gonna get. But that's kind of been the thing that's kind of happened immediately.
All right. We sounding good here. We're ready to roll. We're just gonna, we got a minute or two. We're gonna do just what's been going on with your life, and then just touch a little bit on free agency. That's it. The Stafford stuff with him being off the table, which was big. Good to be YouTubers. We are in the Las Vegas Raiders headquarters today, which is nice. When'd you fly in this morning?
Last night.
Okay.
I was like they come in the night before, so I got to get the paperwork down, and Jack and those guys are hitting me up with different clips and everything.
Yeah.
So just come and settle down.
Good.
I never like coming the day before. It just seems like I'm so rushed.
Well, that's the weird thing about, I got a flight coming up on Wednesday, and when you got to get that flight and the world could cancel it or flights could be late, it's just rough, man.
Yeah.
Bobby, we good to go? All right. All right. Out of the gate, JT live from Raiders headquarters, HQ on Monday. NFL free agency is the topic at hand. But I'm excited if you're watching on our YouTube stream at JT the Brick YT, and you should all be on that YouTube stream to see this guy to my left, the Hall of Famer, Eric Allen, or is it soon to be Hall of Famer or gold jacket guy? Good to see you, my brother. How are you?
Great seeing you, man. Great seeing you. And it's funny, we're here back in the beautiful studios here in Las Vegas. And almost a month ago, I learned that I was going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and no one knew except a couple really tight, close people. And me and you were here doing the coaches show. I think Coach Pete just got the job, so we're doing interviews, and I'll let you know. And because you're one of my good friends, we've been here for years and years. First started off with the Raiders in 1998, but like I said, it's all about relationships, right? And you've been a great friend. And
Thank you.
I was happy to share that moment with you.
Well, I was happy to keep the secret because you know I bring all my boys to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You meet them at the Torch, and I'm hanging out there having cocktails with them. And then finally, I haven't shared this story with you, and it's great that we can do it on this platform. So the night of NFL honors, we are in. My wife knows back home. My sons know, but I kept that secret pretty long. And I go over to the Ditka Jaws cigar party, which is a big event.
Yeah.
And I roll in there. And I walk in, and I'm getting settled, and they had this area that we were in, and Brian Urlacher's there, and I see Sal Palantonio, Jaworski, and John Gruden. So this is like a half hour before you go live. So I go to them. I go, yeah, man, it's just amazing. We could celebrate Eric Allen. And they go, what? I go, yeah. I go, it's honors. Sal Pal dropped the glass. He's out there, and Gruden looks at me, and he goes, what? I go, yeah. And I go, wait, that's safe enough. I held it till you were there in there. But then walk me through what it was like with your wife and your kids as you flew to New Orleans, knowing you had to hold this secret back. And it was an Eagles Super Bowl, your former team.
Yeah, so that kind of gave us cover that, we were going to see the Eagles. And we've been to the last couple of Super Bowls where the Eagles have gone. I've taken the family and the boys. Of course, the boys, we have half and half. I have 4 boys. As most people know, 2 are humongous Eagle fans and 2 are Raider fans. So the Eagle guys, they were there, and so everyone was like, "Hey, are you going to Super Bowl?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to Super Bowl to root on the Eagles." But the day before honors, we were walking on Bourbon Street, just kind of enjoying the town, and there was just so many just Eagle fans stopping me and just talking to me about the old days and hey, good luck, in the Hall of Fame. It was just such a great moment that the Eagles were there. I'm in a city in New Orleans that I used to play in. So it was just phenomenal. And we did a really cool job. My wife knew 10 days before they came in.
Oh, I can't believe that.
Lynn, she did a great job of just preparing this great story about what we were supposed to do. And as people know, and if you haven't seen, if you see the knock, Randall McDaniel, who was my college teammate. We went on a recruiting trip together when we were 17 years old. So we've known each other for, years and years. Both about to turn 60 pretty soon. So it was just a great joy. You just don't know how it's going to hit you until it does. And it has blown me away. The Hall of Fame committee has been phenomenal. They've done everything first class. All the outreach of the community. Like I told you, Peyton Manning texted me. I'm like, Peyton Manning's texting me. Ray Lewis, big bear hug with Ray Lewis. So the night of the honors, we're walking up, and still, we really can't say much to anyone, but, we come down in the hotel, and this is the NFL hotel. So they have the group go out maybe 2 hours before us that are all going to go to honors. You see Max. Max is there for the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. So all those guys are already gone. So then we come in and have to go out the back door into a secret van. And so they drive us to the honors. We're in the backs of the honors. No one can see us. We're kind of mapped off as Sterling, myself, Jared, and Antonio Gates. We're kind of just, man, I just want to get this thing over with. I want the world to know, right? But we're in the back and no one knows. So the drum roll, and then they kind of seat us when it's dark, so no one knows that we're in the honors. And then the drum roll, and they make the announcement, and just the cheers, and the The vibe is just so happy. And we get up on stage, and Ray Lewis gives me a big bear hug. He says, "EA, man, you don't know how much I meant to you." I'm like, "You're Ray Lewis. What are you talking about, man?" And there was a coach who was on our staff in Philadelphia who had went to the Ravens staff and told those guys defensively, how I prepared in the offseason, how I would take a football team and kind of just understand their offense and how they were trying to attack us and those things. And he said, "Man, I took that and I ran with it." And that was kind of how I prepared each and every season. So I just want to say thank you. And I'm like, "Man, you're Ray Lewis. What are you talking about? Thank you." Just great. So you just never know who you affect. And it's just been an incredible experience.
What was it like? Eric Allen joins us as we're live at Raiders headquarters. What was it like during the Super Bowl? I mean, that was a blowout. Yeah. So when you get announced and you're there and you're at the Super Bowl, what was that whole crowd like? Because it's Kendrick Lamar. There's everything going on. Yeah. Next thing you know, you're there on the field. Walk me through that moment.
Yeah, so we're down in the bottom of the stadium, and, it's like we have security guards, and they're like, Hall of Fame. So people are parting ways for us, JT. I mean, we're underneath, but we are carte blanche. We're a gold card, right? And so we stop, and everybody's like, "Man, the Hall of Famers stop. Why are we stopping?" So they're like, hold up. President Trump motorcade goes by. And so we're like, "Yeah, you guys are Hall of Famers, but you guys are not the president." So we have to wait for his crew to go by, and we weren't able to see him. But it was just a magical day. And as we get to the part of the Super Bowl where they're going to announce, I think it's after the first quarter, we're down behind in the bowels of the stadium, and we come out and they announce my name, and all the Eagle fans are just going crazy. I mean, they're just, you can see the faces, and everyone's giving high fives. It was just an incredible moment, and something I'll never, ever forget. But I think the Hall of Fame has done an incredible job of just making it so special. And it's like we're the only guys on earth. And everywhere we went, all the introductions, I was able to sit down and have a great conversation with Bill Belichick and just talk about defense with him, which was crazy out of nowhere. But the whole experience, and it still continues. We're going back later on this month to kind of see the venues and things to set things up. So they've really done an amazing job.
All right, we're wrapping it up with Eric Allen. Two more I want to ask you about the whole experience. The Eagles win the Super Bowl. You're still there.
Yeah.
You get inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You got to get out of New Orleans at some point. Then you get back to San Diego. What was that like coming up for air when you're just in your house with your wife, the kids are back, they're gone, and you're just sitting there taking it in? What was some of those moments like?
Well, every week so far, we've received some kind of package or opportunity to be in the community of the Hall of Fame, which has been great. But sitting at home, and where I stay in La Playa, Point Loma area, is it's a great spot. But if I go on my roof, I can look like southeast and see where I grew up. Wow. And the first night, just going up and kind of seeing where it all started was really special. And me and my wife has been able to kind of just sit back and just kind of enjoy the time. And it just feels like you're at home. It feels like, you went on vacation somewhere and you're trying to get back home. And as you're trying to get back, you've been, occupied by this and that. But as soon as, I walked on that stage, I realized that, man, I'm back home where I needed to be. And that's kind of what it feels like at home now.
Yeah, last one on this. 19 years, the wait, knowing what it's like when you don't make it in 20 and you go to the senior list. I mean, the wait, the follow-up question would be, were you surprised the class was so small with only 4? Because as I talked to Emmitt Smith, now, you don't know this because I was on Radio Row and I asked Emmett about that. And he said he was disappointed because he goes, there's 2 other men that could have been on that list and their parents and their kids could experience what your experience. What is your opinion about the wait for you? Because it took a while, but we always felt you were getting in. And now that the wait's behind you, what type of piece are you at?
Well, That's a great question, and that's been asked many times. And I talk about validation, and I don't think that validated me because I'm who I am, right? And I always knew that I was a really good player, but the validation is for my family, my friends, and the fan base. And now all those guys who rock the 21 jersey in Philly or in New Orleans or in Oakland, who always said, hey, EA was my guy. You know, he was a shutdown corner. You know, like you go back to Sal Palantonio. Sal was like, you know, when I first walked into Philly, you know, and played that first year, he's like, man, you're going to be a great player. And so all those guys who had to, you know, talk about how good I was, but never had, hey, but he's not in. Now they have that right to
it's a relief for a lot of people.
It really is. It really is. And I'm happy for those folks. And it just means the world. I'm 379, right? The 379th person elected to the Hall of Fame. There's been millions of people who played American football. And to be 379, that's
a good number.
Yeah,
I'll remember that one because Freddie B writes his number
on
his
queue.
So you know that. And I'm sure he's listening.
That's right.
I didn't talk to you. That's it.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to you last week about the combine, but the Raiders, they didn't lose out on Stafford. They were interested in. Stafford decides to stay with the Rams. Everyone in Raider Nation wants to figure out the quarterback situation here, knowing that we have Aiden in-house. Yeah. The draft, Shador could be there at 6. Cam Ward probably be gone. Maybe the Raiders trade up, trade back to Jackson Dart. This quarterback question still looms as we're at headquarters today.
It really does. And it looms over every organization that is not a Super Bowl champion. Who is going to be your quarterback? What's your plan for right now? And what's your plan for the future? And I think we're at a pivotal point right now to have someone to take advantage of maybe the opportunity that wasn't so bright last year, coming off of the Chiefs, coming off of 2 Super Bowl wins. After you saw the Chiefs' performance in the Super Bowl, you're thinking to yourself, this could be an opportunity here shortly to be able to take advantage of how they have to kind of reassemble and rebuild their team. The Chargers kind of going through some personnel issues. The Broncos have a young quarterback. So I understand that we need a quarterback for the future for this football team, but maybe this is a window right now where we need someone to be able to take advantage of Brock Bowers and Max Crosby and Jacoby Myers and all these guys who are here right now. And I think that's really important from a veteran standpoint. When I made my decision to come to Oakland in '98, I was in year 10. I didn't have time to be in a rebuilding process. So I had faith in Coach Grew and Willie Shaw and Mr. Davis that we'd be able to compete right now and right away. And we did that for the most part. I know that I got hurt later on in '98. And we were like 7-2 at that moment and looking good, and a couple more injuries. And we didn't, realize what we need to do after the quarterback change to Rich Gannon, right? This football team kind of went on a mini run. I think that's what we're looking for right now. Someone maybe in free agency who can take advantage of what we have right now, and then maybe a younger guy who can kind of sit and learn under that free agent guy to be able to kind of hand the keys off and that guy take us to the future.
Last one. We know you got a lot of work to do today. Eric Allen joins us. He'll be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame coming up here in Canton in August. This Tom Brady, Pete Carroll, John Spidek, we talked to a few of them. When you were on the road in New Orleans and home and you're texting with other great players, what do they think of this Brady, Mark Davis, new ownership, Pete Carroll? There's a lot going on in this building.
Yeah, obviously, the guys who don't know kind of what's happened just keep saying, what's going on with you guys? You guys are going through coaches and general managers, and man, you guys are a mess. But people who understand, first of all, you cannot deny that Mr. Davis is continuing to chop at the tree. He's continuing to try and chop it down. You got to respect that. You got to have some understanding of what he's trying to do. He's not just going to sit by and let 4 or 5 years go. No, he's chopping at the tree. And I think I have a lot of respect for that. Bringing in Tom Brady, who I had an opportunity to to talk with, and just the understanding of what he's trying to bring to this organization is consistency. And you have to have, for the first time in a long time, from ownership, player personnel, head coach, everyone's in line right now. And Pete is the icing on the cake. He's done it before. He understands the culture. He understands what we need to do, how to build around the quarterback until the quarterback's ready and able to kind of lift the football team. All those things I think are really positive going into the right direction. And it's the first time, I think, in a long time, the Raiders have been lined up like that for success.
We have a 2 to 5 shift after this noon to 2.
Yep.
I'm going to do Mad Dog 7 to 10. So I feel like I'm grinding with you all day today, my friend.
Always.
We'll let you go. Thanks for doing this. There he is,
Anytime.
everybody. Eric Allen, as we kicked it off right here. How awesome is that we could kick off the show that way? EA is going to be in the building all day. He's going to be doing some TV. I'm going to be on the radio today from noon to 2, and then Eric's going to join me back here from 2 to 5, and then we're going to jump into free agency overall. So we're good with that. What we're doing today, this is the kickoff, and as I'm doing the radio show, you'll see this. I'm showing everybody on YouTube. This is our 2025 Raiders free agency preview show. So we got a lot of people that are going to be joining us today. Levi Edwards will join us from the digital team coming up here. Jason Horowitz, we already talked to him. Lincoln Kennedy. On this show, on the radio show, Kirk Morrison, who does a lot of great work. He's going to join us at the top of the hour. Again, Levi Edwards coming up there, and we just knocked out EA. So last week, a couple of things went down, and we're going to take your phone calls too. Like I always said, when I'm in headquarters, these are the days you want to call in. 702-365-9200 when we get to you, because you're in the building and not many radio shows in the entire NFL. I would say today I'm the only radio show in the entire NFL that is live inside an NFL facility. I could be wrong. I doubt it. I think I'm right here. So take advantage of the format. Coming off of the combine, everyone I spoke to last week just wanted to talk about Stafford. So I thought it was good programming. I thought that the Raiders ended up being the team, not one of the teams. Remember when Jordan Schultz or Ian Rappaport read Starbucks? The whole thing was about, is Matthew Stafford skiing with Brady or not? Well, what's going on with the Raiders? It wasn't about the Giants. A little bit of the Giants trying to get Stafford. But I looked at the whole situation and I said, we cannot miss out on this broadcast, on this platform, if Stafford's announced on Fridays he's going to the Raiders, and it wouldn't have been official, but it would have been agreed to, and we didn't cover that story. So Q covered that story. Vinny Bonsignor covered that story. Everybody who covered that story kind of came out of it saying, wow, we just did 4 days on Matthew Stafford and don't have Matthew Stafford. That's okay. That's okay. That's what you do on radio. You take the story, as my former program director, who I wrote my book about, Andrew Ashwood, in the handoff, he always told me when I started my career, play the hits. Play the hits. We don't waste a lot of time on this show. We don't. And last week, Matthew Stafford was the story at the combine. He decided to re-up with the Rams. Good for him. Did he use the Raiders? He didn't use the Raiders. He was going to get a new contract. He was only making $27 million, $4 million guaranteed. The Rams were going to give him more money. Of course, the Rams said, go test the market. The two teams that were the test were the Raiders and the Giants. And he had a much better chance of going to the Raiders because it was closer to his home. There's no state taxes. I think the Raiders have a clearly better roster than the Giants. So it really was the Raiders. So I don't think the Raiders lost out. I just think the Raiders, as Eric Allen just told us, they're chopping wood. The Raiders are going into it saying, hey, we're going to go after that guy. All right, we went after Ben Johnson maybe, or wanted to meet Ben Johnson. We got Pete Carroll, which I think in the long run is going to be a better hire, because watching Ben Johnson, and again, if he was the coach of the Raiders, you wouldn't hear this out of me, but he's not. He's not going to be the coach of the Raiders in our lifetime. Ben Johnson was really taking shots at Jared Goff. Ben Johnson with the Bears doesn't have the infrastructure that Pete Carroll has. Pete Carroll's like a corporate CEO giant in the NFL, and Raider Nation got him. So losing out on Matthew Stafford, I don't look at it that way. I'm not sitting here going, we lost on Matthew Stafford. I'm saying that the Raiders are in the room now on every conversation that's happening in the NFL. They're in the room with Shador. They're in the room with Jackson Dart. If they want to trade up and get Cam Ward, they have the ability to do it. If they want to go after Sam Darnold, more power to them. But if it's not Sam Darnold, as I look at the list today, the list is getting light now that Stafford left. Stafford was talked about for a big reason. Matthew Stafford was the best quarterback available by far. So here's my list of quarterbacks now that we have. The top free agent quarterbacks as of March 3rd, 2025, in no particular order, but it was ordered up this way for me today. You would have Sam Darnold, number one. I'm going to comment on all of them, please. Give me a moment. Sam Darnold, if he comes to the Raiders in free agency at the right price, and what is the right price? $45 million? 40. It's not going to be below 40. It probably shouldn't be above 50, but it could. It could. If they choose on him, he's our guy. Sam Darnold's a really good player coming off an MVP caliber year. Justin Fields of Pittsburgh. If Justin Fields ends up being the quarterback of the Raiders and the Raiders get Aston Gentry or a star running back, a top running back, the Raiders will go from dead last in rushing to one of the top teams in the entire NFL in rushing. Justin Fields is a work in progress. He needs to be worked on as a quarterback, but as an elite rusher, he's at the top of the list. Russell Wilson, easy to connect the dots. If Pittsburgh doesn't want him, which all indications are Pittsburgh wants him, Russell Wilson and the Pete Carroll connection makes sense for a short-term deal. Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota. Now we're starting to get the backup quarterbacks. And then the other big name looming is Aaron Rodgers. So it looked like if Matthew Stafford came to the Raiders, that would open up the door for Stafford to come to the Raiders, and then Aaron Rodgers would have went to the Rams with Devontae. You ask a lot of people in L.A. if they'll take Aaron Rodgers and Devontae on top of Puka and what they had. A lot of people in L.A. were interested in that. Aaron Rodgers to the Giants, to me, is very clunky because he just played for the Jets, and he called the stadium Jet Life instead of MetLife, and he was a Jet that failed. Why would he want to go to the Giants, who are a lot worse than the Jets? It makes no sense to me for Aaron Rodgers to go to the Giants. None. Giants aren't close to winning. Giants don't have the players that the Raiders have. So that leaves Aaron Rodgers to the Raiders. As I told you 2 years ago, I would have picked him up at the airport. I think there's a case to be said that Aaron Rodgers is probably more motivated than he's been at any time in his career. Motivated to stop the noise. Because he's a great player, 4-time MVP, Super Bowl champ. He's right outside the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks of all time. He's very ego-driven. And what would build an ego more than to play in Las Vegas, and be the quarterback of the Raiders under a new regime with Pete Carroll and John Spytek and Tom Brady, if the Raiders want him. And I don't know if the Raiders want him. I have no idea. But he's a name out there. I'd much rather have Aaron Rodgers than 6 or 7 of the guys on this free agent list. And if not, that brings me to what I'll be talking about with Levi Edwards and you coming up today. Coming off the combine and everything that I read and watched on TV, Shador Sanders could be there at 6. And if Shador is there at 6, I find it hard to believe the Raiders would pass on Shador. Because if he's there at 6 and you pass on him and he turns out to be elite, I know all the scars and the blemishes in the history of the Raiders draft picks. I know all of them. Not just 28 years of me being here. I can go back to 1960, where Al Davis, coming in as coach eventually and then running this team, usually hit multiple home runs in the draft. You can go to the Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio, and look at all the players that Mr. Davis drafted in the Hall of Fame. Okay, he had his highs and lows near the end of his career, but we know what Mr. Davis did. This is a big one, man. You got only 2 quarterbacks that are really high up here, and the Raiders are picking 6. They got to go get one of them, I think, in Cam or Shador. Shador might be there at 6, but God forbid he's there at 4 or 5 and someone swoops in and takes him. Then you're looking at Jackson Dart and you're looking at some of the other quarterbacks. And by then, free agency will be over. And if you don't get Sam Darnold, then you don't get Shador, and you don't get Cam, and you didn't get Russell Wilson, it's go time. Okay? My gut tells me the safer move is to get the quarterback now and don't wait for the draft in April. Don't, because the draft, we don't know how it's going to play out. We know that the Raiders have the cap space to go get one of these quarterbacks now and put him in a lab with Chip Kelly, and the guy will be instantly competitive and give the Raiders a shot with Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers, assuming a running back is coming in high in the draft. There's a lot going on here. So that's going to be our topic. I'm here on Monday and Tuesday. Vinny's in for me Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Got a trip with my son who's graduating from college, which is my dream in life, to do stuff with my boys, and we get a chance to do that now, and we'll see what happens this week. So coming up next, Levi Edwards is going to pop in here, and then we're going to have Kirk Morrison at the top of the hour. And this is all about free agents now. I got all my notes. I'm going to be in the building all day today. I got every position group, every Raider free agent, every top potential replacement. I am all prepped up for the next chapter of the offseason. NFL free agency. If you want to talk about Trayvon Merrick, Robert Spillane, offensive linemen, that's your topic here for the next couple of days. Take advantage of the format if you want to get in here. 702-365-9200. The monologue brought to you by PTs. I met Noah Hannafin at Sierra Gold. I'm going to talk about this throughout the show. PTs is our proud partner. They had a meet and greet with Noah Hannafin from the Golden Knights on Friday night at Sierra Gold on Jones. What a night I had with our teammates at Golden Entertainment. I want to thank them a lot for that. We're live on YouTube at JT the Brick, YT, live from Raiders headquarters. Cool, and then I'll take one of those. What was that? Yeah, I saw, yeah. And then when I take the calls, I'm going to want the headset on that, like we do on that one right in front of you. Put the headset on it so the YouTube can hear the calls. When we get that going. All right, man. How's everybody in YouTube? That was a nice treat getting Eric Allen, huh? I thought that was pretty cool.
Hey, Bobby, how much time do we have in this break? How much time do we have for this break?
Cisco, what's up? You want me to talk to him? You got about 4 minutes or so. Yeah.
Copy that.
So I'll do Levi here. When we don't take calls and we have a guest, I don't need that. If we do take calls, we'll just throw it on that.
You want water?
No, I got a Coke. I'm good. Thank you. All right, man. Just coming up for air. This might be my longest day of the year. I'm going to be on for 8 hours. Started at 10:30. We surprised Eric Allen. Eric Allen came into the building, and our whole group was downstairs. Surprised him. That was cool. Yes, Michael Mayer seems to be on the trade block. I cannot confirm that. I got to get out of this chat. Let's get out of this. All right, now I'm back. All right, how's everyone's weekend? Everybody have a good weekend. Big D, I like the Oscars. I did my podcast. I told you Honora would have a big day. It did. Honora had a monster, pretty interesting movie. Stock market down 900 points. Way to go. What a world we live in, huh? All the promises are coming through. Stock market getting decapitated today. Absolutely decapitated. All right, I'll tell Levi we're ready when you are. All right. We got a good crowd in the chat. Nice crowd today, man. Pretty cool to be in headquarters. Oh, man. So isn't it so cool to have that? You know, when I launched this YouTube channel, I was hoping for some exclusivity and some cool stuff. That Eric Allen sit down was really nice, man. I'm going to save that and get that out. It's a whole new world here at Raiders headquarters, man. Whole bunch of people, man. Whole bunch of new coaches, people. Oh. All right, that's Pete Carroll, Competition Pete. We all know that. JT back at Raiders headquarters, streaming live on YouTube at JT the Brick YT. It's our Raiders 2025 free agency preview. Levi Edwards will join us coming up. Vinny Bonsignor will be here Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in for me. So you'll get a lot of Vinny coming up. And we're excited about that. And we're going to get into free agency here as you can come to terms when this free agent window opens up. And I got to expect that the Raiders are going to go big in free agency. They're a 4-win team with a coach who's coming in here who wants to compete and win now, and a draft coming up around the corner. And we're trying to figure out exactly how to thread the needle with the draft, free agency, and re-signing the players that are here. So as I go through the list, and I have a big list today of players that the Raiders have under contract and some free agents, what looms at me, the biggest position group is safety. The Raiders have Marcus Epps and Trayvon Merrick, both as unrestricted free agents. Both of them can be gone. And I don't think Epps is going to get a lot of offers. I could be wrong. Merrick's going to get offers. People are going to look at Merrick and say he's young. He played out his rookie contract. Let's go get him. That's a guy that we can build around if we're a really good team. I would assume the Raiders think the same thing. As I look at Javon Holland, who's a good player in free agency as a safety, Cameron Bynum of Minnesota, there are a few players here, but Trayvon Merrick is really something that we have to concentrate on here because we're getting to the point where the Raiders need to re-sign players so they can have a football team. You got to have bodies. I mean, they got to re-sign some of the players that are here. But they're also players that I don't know if the new regime likes them enough to give them new money. That's what it's like in everything in life with a boss. No matter who your boss is in life. I don't care if you're a landscaper, you're an accountant, whatever you are. If you're not a part of a union where you know your contract's going to get a bump every 2 to 3 years, if you're a free agent when it comes to the world of software, if you're working in technology, if a new boss comes in, they look around and say, yeah, I heard you were great. I was never your boss. I never saw you work a day in your life. I see some of the reports of you being here, so maybe I'll bring you back or not. I mean, that's really what the government's doing right now. It's complete insanity, but that's what's happening here. Not to get political. Everybody's evaluating what you did the last 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, and see if you're worthy to keep your job. Not about what we're going to resign you for. Are you going to keep your job? Well, it's very similar in the NFL in my years, almost 30 years of doing this. You fall in love with your own players. Like we all have fallen in love with Robert Spillane. He's a very good linebacker, really good. Now we're at a point where we're saying to ourselves, how good is he? Good enough to give him a brand new contract, new money, guaranteed? I would say, yeah. Same thing with Trayvon Merrick. I think there's a price. But what happens if other teams are more desperate and they want that individual player? Then you're in a bidding war. And once you get in a bidding war, man, that's tough because you don't want to bid against yourself. So with all the players that the Raiders have under contract, they just signed Isaiah Palomal to an extension, which I think is really cool. But when it comes down to will you bring back all of the players? No way. You're not going to bring back Nate Hobbs, Divine Diablo, Marcus Epps, Trayvon Merrick, Spillane, Malcolm Kuntz. You're not going to bring them all back. You just can't. So get used to that. This is a new regime. A new sheriff in town, Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll might think you're a good ball player, but he knows there are other ball players that he's been in business with, either from the Seahawks, the NFC West, dating back to USC, to other areas of his life where he says, I want to get that player. I'm the coach. I want that player. I feel really good about being here, being the head coach of the Raiders. I want that player. I want that player. And someone's going to lose their job. Now, much of the oxygen in the room is going to be taken up by the quarterback position, and it should be, because this is really where I connect most, I believe, with the Raider Nation. I've told you, I'm always honest with you. I've been known to exaggerate, but I'm always honest. I like most of the free agents, and I like most of the quarterbacks who are available. I don't hate any of them. You do. You hate some of these guys. You're on my chat saying, no Aaron Rodgers, no Sam Darnold. Okay, then what do you want to do? You're telling me you don't want Aaron Rodgers, who's a first ballot gold jacket. You didn't want Stafford. Some of you did. You don't want Aiden O'Connell, but some of you do. You got to make up your mind, man. I am not a mind reader. We got to get quarterbacks, plural, in this room. And then you hear the names, Marcus Mariota, Zach Wilson. Okay, those are backup quarterbacks. My show isn't about the backup quarterback. It's never been about the practice squad and the backup quarterback. My show is about becoming a Pro Bowler, being elite, winning the Super Bowl, going to the playoffs. And this is a 4-win team that has some good players, and the good players should be retained here. But I am looking for a significant overhaul. Now, we found out today that T. Higgins will not be available with the franchise tag there. And look, I like T. Higgins here, but he would have been super, super, super expensive for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now the Raiders are in a situation where they need a wide receiver. But as Eric Allen pointed out earlier today, start getting your head around the fact that we have a wide receiver one in Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers puts up T. Higgins numbers. We have Brock and Jacoby. So Jacoby's a number 2 wide receiver. Brock's a number 1 tight end. I said the same thing with Darren Waller when Waller was here. Waller was a 1. I didn't care that he played tight end. He was a hybrid. He was elite. We had him a couple of years where he was elite. He was as good as any wide receiver and the best tight end when it came to being a receiving tight end out there. So with all that being said, a lot of business is going to go down. I thought the combine didn't do a lot for me. I know it did a lot for the guys who went because they got a chance to talk to people and look people in the eye. But that's a combine I think is going to have an asterisk on it for the next 30 years. It's going to be called the Matthew Stafford Combine, where everybody went in there and they were affixed to Matthew Stafford from Monday to Thursday afternoon. And then Stafford was off the table and everybody else said, what's next? So that's where we're at here going forward. To get the quarterback or not, to get to the draft, the clock is ticking. It's March 3rd. We have the beginning of NFL free agency right around the corner. And then we have the draft. So here's your topic for today, because you've been asleep with me for a month, and I got to get you going. The topic is get the quarterback now or before the draft. It's one of the most important topics I've dropped on Raider Nation Radio since this platform was born. You got 1 or 2 roads you can go down. I'm putting you at the fork in the road. We're at the fork in the road. You can go right or left. It's the most important question I'm going to ask you. Do you want to wait for the draft? Ooh, all your free agent guys are gone. You want to wait for the draft? Free agent quarterback, bye-bye. Bye-bye, gone. Or do you want to get your quarterback now? Let's get the deal done with the QB, and then we don't have to worry about the quarterback in the draft. Because I don't want to hear anybody call my show and tell me about a 4th-round quarterback. I will literally be close to hanging up on you. We have a 4th-round quarterback. His name is Aiden O'Connell. He outperformed his 4th round. He's kind of like a second, late second, third round guy. I don't want anybody calling my show about a fourth round quarterback. You won't get on. You won't get on the radio calling me about let's wait for a quarterback in the fourth round. That's gross. That's a topic I will not engage in that topic. We are either going super big at quarterback in free agency or the draft, or we're going Aiden O'Connell, who's a fine young man, as Tim McCarver would say. He's a fine young man. Aiden O'Connell, he is. But you can't have it both ways. You can't tell me I want this free agent guy, but I like Shedeur. No, we got to get the free agent guy because free agency opens before the draft. And then free agency is going to close, and we're going to have no free agents available, and then we're going to have to draft whoever's there. And I love Jackson Dart. It's another topic I want to throw out there. I take him 6. If Shedeur's not there, if Shedeur's there, I take Shedeur. If Shedeur's not there, I would take Jackson Dart. Who cares? Bo Nix was taking 12. What happens if Jackson Dart's better than Bo Nix and we take him 6? No one in the world will care. So those are some of the things I'll be talking about. Levi Edwards will join us momentarily. So he's going to pop in. We'll take Levi coming up on the other side. We're brought to you by Tito's Handmade Vodka. Had a few of those over the weekend. Tito's on the rocks or with a splash of soda, cranberry, however you like it. Tito's is a proud partner of our show. When we come back, Levi Edwards in studio will join us, and we'll get his combine experience and a couple of the players he likes. As we continue live from Raiders headquarters, streaming live on YouTube under JT the Brick YT, this is Raider Nation Radio. Yeah, can you figure out why people are hearing us through the commercials in here?
We're good.
What's up, Angelo?
Hey, Levi, how you doing?
Good. How about you, man?
We're good.
I don't know. We're good. All right, Levi.
Good. How about you?
Good. What is your hot button today?
Is there a certain position group you want to talk about?
Yeah, well, what did you like? What jumped out at you?
Running backs, basically there wasn't a running back that had a bad day, and
Oh, I like that. That's the type of stuff I like.
quarterbacks, just kind of like outside of the top 2, kind of diving a little bit more into that.
Okay.
What else?
But the running back stuff is really fascinating because I don't think everybody understands the running backs. Like we hear which is the greatest running back class, and we're unless you have
who
yeah,
you talking about?
yeah.
Outside of Genty, a lot of people kind of don't really understand.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we can definitely hop on that.
Good. Did you travel well? Did you work out? Did you eat well?
I did not work out, but I ate very well.
Good.
I'm actually, this is the week I got to get back to in the swing of things. It was a real bad nutritional week for me. I walked a lot. I got in about 10,000 steps every day, so that
good.
helped balance it out.
That balances it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
NFL draft eligible running backs. And did you make some new contacts and friends out there?
Yeah, I did. But the funny thing about it is kind of I was over here thinking, okay, well, I'll meet some new people, kind of network a little bit, do some of that. And it made me realize, I've been in the league for so long now, I know a lot more people than I
Good. Yeah, that's a great part of that.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
So it's kind of weird just going in thinking I'm still in that mindset of I'm still new to the Raiders and I got to prove myself and it still applies, but it's
if the combine never went back to Indy, would you be good if it moved around, or do you like it in Indy?
Keep it in Indy. Keep it in Indy.
You'd keep it in
I'm
Indy.
a firm.
Oh, we'll get into that.
I'm a firm, staunch, keep it in Indy guy.
Yeah, good. Vegas would, because you need the hospital in Indy. You need that for medicals and all
the
that.
The skywalks, everything's so walkable, everything accessible, good food. And Vegas would be such a shit show. You would have so many guys out in trays fucking ruining their draft stock. It'd be so bad.
You're right. Well, you're right. You know why? Because there is no curfew at the combine, right?
I mean, technically, no.
Right.
There's no real curfew. It's just kind of you got to just do what you got to do. But there would just be some crazy story about somebody doing something. Yeah,
you wouldn't want to. We got all right. Busy day today over here at headquarters. Wow. Okay, get ready. T. Higgins getting franchised is interesting. I never thought we were going to get him.
Well, I don't know if he plays on that. I think he's going to try to like force a trade out of it,
Think so?
or like act like I'm not. I don't know where he gets to a point where it's like I'm not going to report for anything before they move on from him. But he might just. It's just hard because the Bengals are a good team, so he might just kind of like.
I think he's going to play on it just for 1 year and then bolt. Be
Yeah,
the biggest free agent next year. I
agree.
think he would be. I don't know.
It would make sense for him to play on it. If it was like a shitty team and they were doing that, like it'd be different. But the Bengals actually have a really
Yeah.
good shot.
Okay. God, that Pete Carroll's exciting. Everything he wants to do is competition, meet everybody, make sure everybody's on the same page. JT, back with you at Raiders headquarters, the DeCastro Verde Law Group. If you get into an accident, the two brothers have you. Brothers win. The brothers have your back. Levi Edwards joins us in studio, fresh off the combine. We were saying you're an Indy combine guy. I asked you if we moved it around, went from Vegas to other markets. You say keep it in Indy.
I 100% is a firm advocate for keeping it in Indianapolis, just the way that everything is set up. And I really think Indianapolis is a really underrated city, in my opinion, just from the food. Obviously, the weather is a little less than ideal, but the weather when I was just there, it was really good, like high 50s, 60s throughout the entire week. Not too much wind. Just like I said, the food, you can find some really good food spots out there. But more importantly than any of that, is just how accessible everything is.
Yeah.
Everything is downtown. You have the convention center that's connected to the stadium. It's very accessible to the hospitals that are right there downtown Indy, so people can be really close to physicals and x-rays. And that's where really the whole point of the NFL Combine is for these guys to come in and get these in-depth physicals, make sure that they're evaluated properly. And I think that Indianapolis right now has the perfect setup, and it was built to host an event like this. And I really am the firm believer of something in the regards of if it's not broke, don't fix it. I know, obviously, people are always going to want to try to make something bigger and better, but if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, the hospital being connected there for the MRIs and the medicals compared to Vegas. Big advantage there for Indianapolis. I want to dive into the limited time we have on the running backs. Ashton Genty, Boise State obviously didn't work out. He's the number one back, but then Hampton, Johnson, Henderson. There's an Ohio State running back in Henderson there that played under Chip Kelly. How deep is this? Because if Ashton Genty, if the Raiders don't take him at 6, how quickly can they get a running back? I don't want to hear 3rd, 4th, 5th round. I want a guy who can pop. Doesn't it have to be in the 2nd or 3rd?
I think it absolutely could be someone in the 2nd or 3rd, and that's just how deep I feel like this running back class is. And I like Ashton Genty just as much as anyone else likes Ashton Genty. He's definitely the top of the running back class that's coming out. But when you look at how many other backs that are coming out, when you look at an Amarion Hampton, who had a great combine, a Quinshon Judkins from Ohio State, who had a great combine, Caleb Johnson from Iowa, Trey Henderson, who just has crazy getaway speed. And even though he ran a 4.4 at the combine, his game speed, when you watch him on tape, is just so much faster. You just have Cam Scadaboo, who he didn't run a 40, but jumped out the gym. You know, they try to lie and say white men can't jump. He looked like he had no problem with that at the combine at Indy. So a lot of the running backs, if you don't get Ashton Genty at number 6 and you want to kind of get a more premium position and you want to go after a running back on day 2, I think there's a solid 5 or 6 running backs that you could get on day 2 that could start for the Raiders tomorrow. I'm going to be honest with you. And considering you have Madison, a couple of guys still in that room that are pretty solid running backs, I really do truly believe that this running back class could be special.
Why would I think that a Virginia Tech back or an SMU back like Rashard Smith or Hunter out of Auburn would be better than Zamir White out of Georgia, who's a young player who's got legs the size of tree trunks and was set up to be the guy who was going to take over from Josh Jacobs?
Well, that was an interesting name that you just mentioned, Hunter from Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
He is one of the more underrated backs in this whole draft, and someone that I watched extensively out of the SEC. I'm not necessarily sure if he did any of the drills at the combine or if he was invited, but definitely one of the, in my opinion, premier backs, even of the guys that you could take on a day 3 pick. And also, just if you're comparing skill sets, I think Zamir White definitely kind of more of like to engage in contact, ground and pound kind of guy. And he has a lot of athleticism too. But just in terms of being able to kind of like, you know, read a hole, go through it, you know, drop on a dime. You have a lot of more guys in this draft, and Hunter included, that are more like that. And you have a lot of guys that have like that getaway speed. You know, when you see Genty or you see Hampton, you know, when they go through a hole and it's just them and the linebacker, 9 times out of 10, those guys are going to beat that linebacker and they're going to get to the second level. And not like that's something that Zamir struggled with, but that's just something that I see out of this running back class from a solid 6 guys that you could get. Levi
Edwards joins us in studio. A couple other position groups. I'm sensing that we're going to lose Epps and Merrick, or one of the two. And Isaiah Palomal was signed as an insurance policy for that, even though he could be a starter. I have a feeling no one should say they're a starter around here with Pete Carroll around. That's my new thing. Is like everybody should get that. If you're a player in your mid-20s, you should be walking around this building under the max thinking you're going to be a starter. Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, Jackson Powers Johnson, I get it. But there's going to be a lot of competition there. Are you concerned that there's a new regime with Jack Jones, Jacorian Bennett, Merrick, Epps, that there could be high turnover in the secondary of the Las Vegas Raiders?
Definitely something that could be concerning. However, when you look at the landscape of the defense in particular, that's the reason why you brought back some of these guys, right? That's the reason why you brought back Patrick Graham and the reason why you brought back Rob Leonard is because you want to have something in place that can kind of brace you for whatever turnover that you do have. And then the guys that still are in the locker room, they're familiar with the system. They're comfortable with the system. So whoever you bring in from free agency or in the draft, it's going to be a lot easier for those players to teach the new guys coming in, this is what we have to do. This is what your job is in this system. Because if you have a new defensive coordinator, then everybody's starting from scratch. Everybody is learning together, whether you're Max Crosby or Christian Wilkins or a guy that's coming in drafted in the 4th round. So to have that continuity in the coaching staff, I think will help more than anything when you talk about losing some of these guys or regaining some of these guys.
All right, last one for Levi Edwards, maybe another one after that. The calendar is free agency before the draft. Knowing you just came back from the combine, the amount of money the Raiders have, second in cap space, the amount of players they have to re-sign or not, and then the draft comes after that, what premium do you put on free agency this year compared to your other years with the team?
I think that this is the year before I got here, that regime, they had a very big kind of like go for it mentality in free agency. And that was the year that they got the linebackers. They got the, you know, Littleton and Kukowski and those guys and Marcus Joyner. And so I think, I don't think it's John Spytek, and he's even said it in previous interviews where he's just not going to be blowing money just to be blowing it just because you have all this money in cap. It's going to be very strategic. But I think that this free agency is going to be very active. And I truly believe that, you know, talking to John, he really has a priority on the trenches. And I think Pete Carroll also has a priority in the trenches, and that's offensive and defensive line, because I believe that they want to do everything possible to kind of make sure, the team in general is just very sound. And everybody wants to look at the quarterback position. Everybody wants to say, okay, the Raiders need to get a quarterback. It's the number one need. And I get it. I understand it. But in their minds, they're like, look, we can have the best quarterback in the world. And if we're not doing enough to kind of provide for him or build a good team around that guy, whoever it may be, we're still going to suck. So I can totally see them going into free agency with the mindset of we got to build up our line, offensive and defensive line. And I'm really excited to see kind of what decisions come with that.
I agree. I think this is going to be, you made a really good point at the end there. Free agency could be a period where they can take care of the lines, offensive line, maybe one more on the defensive side, and then really go big in the draft to find the best players available.
100%. And that's, like you said, Spytek at the Combine, he made it very clear, not necessarily straight up saying he's a best player available kind of guy, but he straight up said, if you try to draft for need, you're screwed because you're leaving guys on the board that could be better than the guy that you're taking because you feel like you need someone in this position. And so it doesn't matter whether you feel like, okay, well, I need to draft this. If you have a good competitive locker room, the way that Pete Carroll talks about compete, like he always talks about, you're going to find guys from whatever avenue to field your roster and make sure that there's guys at each position that need to do what they need to do to make the team or start. Mm-hmm. So when it comes down to it, it makes more sense for you to take the guy, no matter what position that you feel like is going to be a good fit for the Raiders and be a good fit to play immediately or develop as quickly as possible.
Thank you, my friend. There he is, Levi Edwards, everybody. You got a chance to see him if you subscribe for free on YouTube at JT the Brick YT. Kirk Morrison's going to join us. More of a national interview with Kirk on what he saw with the Stafford story because he works on the Rams broadcast, and he was a former Raiders linebacker. We'll get some Raider questions in with him, too, as we continue live from Raiders headquarters, brought to you by the M Resort Spa and Casino, the official hotel of the Raiders, right down the street from here. Perfect. Thank you. talk to these people. And then we'll get rolling. All right, Bobby. I'm here. All right. I need that intro for Kirk, right? Yeah. Yeah. You can get him up. You can get him up now. I'll just go right to him. All right, everybody. Appreciate it. I've been real swamped over here today, so I apologize for not being crazy in the chat, but thank you for all being here. We got Kirk Morrison coming up. I'll keep it here for another 20.
Brought to you by Modelo Especial, the new #1 beer in the U.S.
You have him or not?
No, call him again.
Just say got him in my ear when you get him. All right, everybody. Hour number 2, live from Raiders headquarters. Arguably my biggest, longest day of the year. We're on pretty much 8 hours today, nonstop. I'll be on Sirius XM from 7 to 10 Pacific, and we're hosting the brand new 2025 free agency preview show with the Raiders all day today. So the newest member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Eric Allen's with me all day. He just popped out to do some TV. We got some other guests coming up here in a little bit. If you'd like to watch the show from inside Raiders headquarters, it's JT the Brick YT. Best way to see me there. And we can get rolling and get you going. Kirk Morrison will join us in a moment here. Always excited to talk to him. A matter of fact, we are ready. Joining us now is Sirius XM's Kirk Morrison from NFL Radio. You can hear Kirk every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern with Bruce Murray on the Sirius XM Blitz on Channel 88 and on the Sirius XM app. Just search NFL Radio. And Kirk, good to talk to you, my friend, and great work post-Super Bowl, man. I played your Super Bowl interviews on the field for 3 or 4 days. Congratulations on that.
Oh, man, appreciate it. Always great to be with you, JT. How you doing, my friend?
Couldn't be better. I'm at Raiders headquarters earlier in the day. I got you here, and I'm just excited because coming off Kansas City losing to Philadelphia in that Super Bowl, did you think that was going to be, when you got to the second half in the third quarter, such a dominant performance by Philadelphia, almost a blowout of epic proportions?
You know what? I almost felt it during pregame warm-ups. When the Chiefs took the field, it was as if they were just showing up to another football game, that they've kind of been in this before. And then when the Eagles took the field, I don't know if I was just in a spot where there was just nothing but Eagles fans, but it just felt like that stadium, it changed and it became truly pro-Eagles. I bet it was more Eagles fans than the Chiefs fans who were there to witness possible a three-peat. And just for some reason, I just got a feeling, JT, when those Eagles fans start yelling and screaming as they took the field for pregame warm-ups, I just felt different. And it almost felt like they wielded them to an early, a fast start, and then obviously ultimately a victory.
When you saw that they only rushed 4 and never blitzed and sacked Mahomes 6 times, is that more about the dominance of the Eagles or the problems that Kansas City has going forward if they want to retain a dynasty and get back to the Super Bowl again?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. Obviously, the tackles, it finally caught up to the Kansas City Chiefs. On one side, just Joe Tooney, he's an outstanding guard in the NFL. Him playing tackle was just not what they wanted. And those guys feasted. And I'm talking about the Eagles. Nolan Smith, Josh Sweat, Williams, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, just the entire group. Brandon Graham, a guy who we didn't even know would play. Those guys rotated in. It was like a hockey line change at times. And those guys just kept rotating through. They were just coming all game long. and there was just nothing that the Chiefs could do. And so I don't know if I'm saying that their dynasty breaks up. They're still one of the best teams that we've seen in the last 10 years in terms of how good they have been, but definitely it put them on notice to what they need to get accomplished in free agency in the draft upcoming.
Kirk Morrison is our guest. Earlier today, the Bengals franchised T. Higgins for the second year in a row. You played at a high level in this league for years. How do you think he's feeling about that? Because they are a team that could win the Super Bowl with the talents of Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. And Mike Brown's not a guy who likes to spend a lot of money. What does this mean to the rest of the league who wanted to take a look at T. Higgins in free agency?
I think it was all about the layaway plan. Now, I know I'm dating a lot of people who are listening because layaway used to be a thing. Remember, you just pay on it, almost like a credit card bill. But that's what I think this was for T. Higgins. This was just a placeholder, JT, just to at least they can control his rights. Now, that meaning that they still have until the middle of July that they can work out a long-term deal that will definitely compensate him. So this is going on their books right now for the upcoming year in terms of their salary cap. But this in no means is he's going to play for a one-year deal. I think they'll get a long-term deal done this summer. But this just places a hold for them to get the money that's needed to pay not only Trey Hendrickson, but also Jamar Chase, the richest, contract for a non-quarterback in NFL history. This was just all part of what I thought that they would do. And this is what Duke Tobin had said over at the Combine, that they planned on sort of using it. He didn't say it outright, but I knew they planned on using it just only as a placeholder, like a layaway thing, because they're going to get to it this summer.
Kirk Morrison, as we continue here from SiriusXM NFL Radio. Also, all the work you've done on the Rams broadcast. And when you look at Matthew Stafford, it was a really weird combine for those who went, that he took the oxygen out of the room in Indy for 4 days, 3 or 4 days. How close did you think there was a chance? Because, you played for the Raiders, and it seems like with John Spytek and Pete Carroll, they were interested at some point. That kind of moved the needle maybe for him to go back to the Rams. Sitting in the room that you were in, and when you continue to sit in that room and know that organization, was this the right plan for them all along, to let him test the market, get a vibe for what he'd be worth, and then come back and give him what he deserves?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he definitely ruled the headlines over during media availabilities during the time in Indianapolis at the Combine. It was all about Matthew Stafford. He was what they considered the big domino. And once he fell, then we felt that free agency can start to materialize, and maybe even more so, it would definitely materialize how we look at these quarterbacks in the draft. Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, and now obviously Jackson Dart, who elevated his status. But I thought the whole entire time that Matthew Stafford and his wife and 4 daughters, they never wanted to leave Los Angeles. Just the LA Rams, just how they've been, they inform players, hey, you go out and find the contract that you want, and we'll see if we'll be able to match it. I think that they did that with Cooper Kupp and trying to give and informing him that, hey, you can go and find your trade partner. We want to do right by you. I think it was the same with Matthew Stafford. If you can go out and find the contract that you think you are rightfully deserving of, give us the opportunity to match it, and then we'll see where it goes. And I think that's what happened. Matthew Stafford got the contract that he wanted to hear from a couple of teams, goes back to the Rams and said, hey, look, this is what's there. And the Rams says, okay, we can match that. We can do that, or we can do some things that help us out. And ultimately, they signed that deal very quickly on Friday when they met.
Well, Sam Darnold's numbers in the regular season were clearly better than Stafford, but Stafford beat him and went farther in the postseason and were close to getting to the Super Bowl all in the snow in Philadelphia. So with Stafford staying in Los Angeles, what does that do for the price of Darnold? Does it continue to go up?
Yeah, what does it do for Darnold? What does it do for Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers? I even throw in Daniel Jones in that same scenario as well. I don't think that Sam Darnold is a one-year quarterback guy. If I'm his agent, I'm looking for multiple years, 2 to 3 at least, and some guaranteed money in there as well, JT. So I don't know if this drives the price up, but definitely that's one less team that Sam Darnold could have the opportunity to play quarterback for. So now it's all about, okay, what team is available? But I think, man, this is definitely going to be telling what team goes after Sam Darnold, because now you understand when the draft coming up in less than 2 months, Now it may push some teams to go out and draft a quarterback if they don't get Sam Darnold at the price tag they possibly may want.
Wrapping it up with Kirk Morrison. When you've been doing this so long at such a high level as a broadcaster, when you see a team win, like the Eagles, normally they lose players to free agency. Everybody wants to get paid. But Howie Roseman's different. He's playing chess where a lot of guys are playing checkers. And then usually, Kirk, all the teams are at the bottom that won 5 games or less. They want to spend if they do have the money quickly to improve. And then every GM tells you for SiriusXM NFL Radio that they want to build through the draft. So I'm in the boat where I got to remind fans, if you got money, you better spend it quickly because this is not a deep free agent class, period. At wide receiver, it's not deep. It's not deep. I think at quarterback, it's not deep at a lot of big positions. So do you think there'll be a run on free agency quickly from some of the other teams under 5 wins or less that got to get better?
Yeah, I mean, if you have the money, you got to spend it. So I always look at the teams, obviously, with the most cap space, trying to find guys who suit what you are as a football team. I always said it's kind of a double-edged sword because you have all this money available to you for the salary cap, but then because of where you're at, maybe as record-wise, you may have to overpay and overcompensate to get the players that you want. And so sometimes you get guys who may be, I think, bought after or sought after and probably not worth the money that they're going to be given. Now, that being said, I will throw this out at you, though, JT, is that I give Howie Roseman a ton of credit. Mm-hmm. 3 years, they start giving out those contracts. They don't wait for the 5th-year option. They don't wait till to put a guy on the franchise tag. They give you a very comparable deal 3 years after they know who you are as a player, and those deals become really obsolete literally a year or 2 years after because the numbers keep getting bigger and bigger. Mm-hmm. I love what Howie Roseman does. I wish more teams would do that. Reward your guys early. And if you get it wrong, hey, you can get out of it in a couple of years. But the longer you wait, like the great, rapper Fat Joe says, JT, yesterday's price is not today's price. And those prices continue to keep going north and north and north. And so I believe, yes, you have to have a plan in place. You have to draft well. But biggest part about all of this, you got to hit on the quarterback too. You hit on the quarterback, it allows you to do a lot in free agency and in the draft.
Last one, does Shador make it to the Raiders at 6 or the Jets at 7? Does he drop going into the draft? I can't imagine his celebrity, his status, him sitting in the green room with the camera in his face as he's dropping. This is not going to be an Aaron Rodgers scenario or a quarterback from back in the day that they end up doing a documentary on, but I don't know. Cam Ward seems to be the headliner there. How far do you think Shador could drop?
Yeah, see, that's the thing, JT. It's all about this free agency period. Because if you're doing what you're supposed to in free agency, then I don't believe that he is going to drop. But if teams don't get the quarterbacks that they probably want, then you may go after a Shador. But are you ready to wait, or you want to win right now? That's what the things are. This is a league that everybody wants to win right now. They want the Jaden Daniels type of turnaround quickly in Washington. They want that Bo Nix turnaround in Denver, right, going to the playoffs right away. They want success. They don't want the Caleb Williams having to go find a head coach after a year. And so what does that mean for Shador Sanders? Does that mean that he waits a little bit longer than he probably expected? I think it really comes down to the teams that have these free agency needs at quarterback. What they do will determine what Shador does. And, I don't foresee him going past 6. Maybe he does land with the Raiders, but I wouldn't be surprised if he slides a little bit more just because of the way free agency turns out.
Yeah, that's why we're having you on. We'll have him on again, the great Kirk Morrison. Good to talk to you, my friend. Continued success.
Oh, no problem. Anytime, JT. Appreciate it.
You got it. Kirk Morrison, SiriusXM NFL Radio. Really nice guest to slide in today because that's part of my national show tonight. Sometimes we park a guest in here. I can play him on my show at night. I got 3 hours tonight from 7 to 10, man. I need all the help I can get. I'm excited to go, but Kirk will be in that slot, and he's really good. And a former Raider, once a Raider, always a Raider. So I'm going to keep it here for a few more minutes more. If you want to light it up, phone calls the rest of the way. It's wide open, me and just the Raider Nation. I got a short week. Vinny will be in for me Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So if you want to get in, Clock is ticking, 702-365-9200. Nick in Long Island. Nick, thanks for waiting and being patient. I appreciate you.
No, it was worth the wait because I'm about to make a very good point, and everyone needs to hear it. Listen, I'm online. It's a bad idea usually to go on Twitter and read Twitter because, most of the people on there are deranged anyway. But you see these people because Adam Schefter has now, since the Super Bowl, dropped the nugget 3 times now that you got to look out for Darnold to the Raiders, and Raider fans are losing their minds over the prospects of getting Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold just threw for 35 touchdowns this year. And the Raiders have had one guy who has thrown for 30 touchdowns in a year since the merge in 1970. Darryl Lamonica did it twice in the 60s. Derek Carr did it in 2015. Who are we to thumb our nose at a guy who just threw for 35 touchdowns in a season? And they'll sit there and they say, oh, he was on a team with a good receiver and a good coach. But they don't want to point out that when he was bad, he was on a team with a coach who's no longer in the league anymore on the Jets and the Panthers. He went 8-9 on the Panthers. This wasn't just, there were a lot of people saying to watch out for this when he went to the Niners last year, and they said, look out for Sam Darnold. He's going to play well for the Vikings. He went and played well for the Vikings. Won 14 games. And now people are saying, the last game of the year he was horrible, but they don't want to point out the week before he was great against the Packers that put them in a position to even be in a game against the Lions for a division title. Sam Darnold's 27 years old. He can make every throw on the field. He's mobile. And you know what? Maybe it was all the Vikings. But if it was all the Vikings, why didn't the Vikings come into Vegas back in 2023 and they scored 3 points on us? If Kevin O'Connell's a great coach, but if he's this miracle worker and we're only giving credit to him because of Sam Darnold, then why couldn't Nick Mullins and Josh Dobbs do what Sam Darnold did? You got to give some credit to the player here. He was drafted 3rd overall, horrible team for the Jets, went to a horrible team like the Panthers, like Baker Mayfield, and then he went and he played on the good. And we're paying Chip Kelly $6 million a year. We should be able to get this out of Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's the move. He's 27. Do not sit and just sign a stopgap and hope someone falls for us in the draft. We did that the last 2 years. It didn't work out. I cannot watch another year of some stopgap for 9 games and Aiden O'Connell for another 8 games. I can't do it. Go get Sam Darnold. He's the answer. Maybe he's not the answer, but then you just cut bait like the Falcons are going to do with Kirk Cousins. No big deal. Then you go and find another guy in the draft. That's the case. That's my rant.
Wow, that's a good rant. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. Well thought out phone call. I agree with most of what he said. If you get Sam Darnold, and again, it's all about the right price. It's not our money. There's new ownership here. They got the money to do it. At least with Sam Darnold coming in, the Raiders will be really good. Really good with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's not going to come to the Raiders and be a bust. The guy went to USC, the guy with good coaching. Nick made a good point about having Chip Kelly. Okay, will he put up the numbers he put up with Justin Jefferson and the Vikings? Probably not, but if he has a good year, he had a really good year. And he's not 37. He's not 35. He's not 34. You have the ability to lock him up. He's just going to ask for the maximum amount of money. Him and his agent are going to say, if I'm coming to Las Vegas to a 4-win team, I want a lot of money. And I want to get it, and I want my guarantees. And that's going to be a big decision. Because if we didn't have to watch the calendar. So free agency, March 10th, and then the 14th, we make it official. It's March 3rd. March 3rd. Okay, let me tell you what happens here. We're going to get Sam Darnold to agree to terms. It's going to be here in the next week. Okay, if we get Sam Darnold to agree to terms and then it becomes official on the 14th, we're done with quarterbacks in the draft until the 3rd, 4th round. You're not going to get Sam Darnold and Jackson Dart. You're not going to get Sam Darnold and Shador. You're going to have your quarterback in the bank, in free agency, ready to roll. If the Raiders don't agree on Sam Darnold, then some other team steps up. Like, it's not going to be the Giants. I don't think Sam Darnold's going back to the tri-state area in New York. Could Sam Darnold go to the Tennessee Titans? And then the Titans can go out and get, oh my God, the Titans, if they get Sam Darnold, can go out and get Travis Hunter and get Sam Darnold, a corner and a receiver in the first couple of picks? Or they trade down? You don't know. It's going to be very unique and complex coming up here. And that's why we're counting on everybody like Nick, who had a great phone call, waited on hold there. He wanted to get his point across. He sounded off like he's got a pair. John in Salt Lake City. Thanks for waiting. You're up next, John. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks, JT, for taking my call.
Yep.
I'm going to take a little different avenue here.
Okay.
If the Raiders want to win now, JT, go get the future Hall of Famer. Are you kidding me? How many times are we going to pass on future Hall of Fame quarterbacks? Go get Aaron Rodgers. And not only that, why don't you go get his buddy Devontae? You bring both of them back. You pair them with Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers, and you go get a running back. You arguably have the best offense in the AFC West.
What's it gonna cost to get Devontae still in the prime of his career to come back to Vegas where he didn't want to be?
You know what? It's hard to say, but if you get Aaron, he may take less money to do it. And look, I just think if you want to win now, when you look at all them quarterbacks, if you're going to tell me, all right, for 1 year, who do you want to win? I'm taking Aaron Rodgers. I'm taking him over Sam Darnold. I'm taking him over Russell Wilson. And I'm taking him over Justin Fields. He's a future Hall of Famer. He played well at the end of the year last year. His numbers weren't that much different than Stafford's. To me, I don't even understand this. You've got a chance to get a future Hall of Famer. And you don't get these opportunities.
Yeah.
We passed last year on Russell Wilson. We could have had Russell Wilson for the league minimum, and we chose to go Gardner Minshew. You got now an opportunity. If you really want to win this year, go get the future Hall of Famer. I don't care he's 40 years old. The guy can sling it. I've watched him. He can sling it.
I've always been a fan. Thanks for the call. I got to run, buddy. Appreciate you. I've always been a fan of Aaron Rodgers, the football player, not Aaron Rodgers, the drama, everything that surrounds him. It comes down to a fair point with Aaron Rodgers. If he's willing to be vetted to work and play under Tom Brady and Pete Carroll, like if he came in and sold his soul and said, you will not catch anything from me. No shrapnel. I am not going to do anything other than in-house stuff with the Raiders. Even if he doesn't do that, if he comes here and he's a guy completely focused on football, he's a hell of a player. I think the Devontae ship has sailed. Again, can we all get along with Devontae? Sure. Devontae's out playing Shadow Creek every day. My son shows me on his Instagram, there's Devontae hitting irons into the green at Shadow Creek. I'm sure Devontae, who won't admit it, has regrets. Devontae Adams might be released. A couple of years ago, we gave up a 1 and a 2 and made him one of the highest priced players in NFL history. Now he's on the verge of getting cut. Released is cut by the Jets. But the caller made a really good point there at the end that I wanted to say. If Aaron Rodgers plays for less money, what? He has to play for less money now. This guy can't go into a rocking chair making $50 million. No, he has to play for less. And then once that leaks that he will play for less, maybe there'll be more interest in him other than the New York Giants. That's the way I see it. Dino in New York, my guy. How are you, Dino?
Okay, JT, how you doing, buddy?
Good. What do you think?
Well, the caller from Staten Island made a great case for Sam Darnold. He was very persuasive. He made a lot of good points. The thing I agree with on the most is if you're going to sign a free agent quarterback, it's got to be somebody young with some possible upside. Okay, all these quarterbacks have warts. Nobody's going to let a great quarterback hit free agency. So if they do go that route, you got to get somebody on the younger side. Maybe a Justin Fields clicks with Chip Kelly, and like you said, $6 million. He's got to earn that money. I like the mobility of a younger guy than over an older guy. That being said, I will take the Ron Wolf route every time. I'm always going to draft a quarterback. Even if I sign a young guy, I want someone there to push him that could possibly take the job, and then you just play the better guy. As far as the Raider defensive free agents go, I'm not real high on bringing back a lot of guys from a 4-12 defense. I know they had a lot of injuries, but this team went 4-12 for a reason. I like Malcolm Kuntz. He's got upside. He showed it. He was in bad injury. Robert Spillane's been rock solid. I would really fight to bring him back. As far as the secondary goes, I would never overpay for Trayvon Merrick. He's not a difference maker from what I've seen. He's going to command $20 million plus. I think that's too much for a guy like that. And Nate Hobbs I like, but Nate Hobbs doesn't have the availability. He's missed a lot of games. So they got to spend their money wisely on free agency. If you look back through the history of free agency, cornerback is probably the biggest bust position. because the great ones don't hit free agency. Teams know that they're so hard to find a good corner. You don't let them hit free agency. You sign your own if they're good. So I'd be very wary of spending money on the secondary, maybe a safety, but corners, that scares me a lot because of the history of free agency.
Great call, Dino. A lot of good things there. Dino made it sound complex. He's right. There's a lot of players that aren't going to be back here. I'm in the building all day today. I have no idea who's coming back or not. But this was a team that lost 10 football games in a row. 10. There's a lot of players who are on the field for all 10 of those losses in a row. They're good guys. They're once a Raider, always a Raider, good players. They will not be back. John Spytek will bring in better players than the ones that ended the season on the roster. That's just how it works. And you better hope it works that way. And when it comes to the quarterback situation, those last three calls, right? Dino, John, and Salt Lake, as we talked to the callers that came in and Nick in Long Island, had three different opinions. Nick came in screaming, you got to do Darnold. You got to do Darnold. Then John comes in going, you got to do Aaron Rodgers. You got to do Aaron Rodgers. Then Dino comes in, my guy from New York, and says, wait a second. These quarterbacks have warts. They're all right. They're all correct. It is complex. And that's why Tom Brady's in the building. And I don't know what he does. I think he probably does a lot more than I could imagine. He's such a winner. He's such an elite football player in mind. Proven, right? Not like Tom Brady could be good. No, Tom Brady's great at everything he's done pretty much his whole life. Say the same thing with Aaron Rodgers, a little bit different in his personal life than Tom Brady. Everybody makes mistakes. But great quarterbacks know great quarterbacks. And I'm confident that Tom Brady is going to figure out who's the best quarterback available right now for the Las Vegas Raiders. I hope so. He's the guy most valuable in that room to make that decision. Chip Kelly's making a lot of money, and Pete Carroll better get a couple of guys that he knows he can work with and compete. All right, thanks for the bricklayers on YouTube. We're about a half an hour to go. It's phone calls the rest of the way. You want to get through like those last three? Love to hear from you. Live from Raiders headquarters, 702-365-9200 is the number as we continue on. Congratulations to Resorts World. They were the host property for NRL Rugby. I had a chance to go to rugby. It was spectacular. Spectacular what rugby does to this town. The amount of people that get on airplanes and travel over bodies of water, oceans, to come to Las Vegas for rugby, all have a great time. Congratulations to Allegiant Stadium, NRL Rugby, and Resorts World, proud partner of that great event. When we come back, more on some of the free agency position groups that I'll be talking about with Eric Allen. As soon as this show ends, we start another 3-hour show as we're doing the Raiders 2025 free agent preview show. A lot of heavy lifting today, and I'm proud to be a part of it. Eric Allen walked into the building today and was surprised. Everyone met him in the lobby and congratulated him on being soon to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Woo! Thank you. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Snow Raider, the whole crew. Good day today. That's an hour and 33 minutes of A-list content for a platform. Hope you enjoyed it all. Appreciate everyone.